Greetings! Welcome to Gamezillong Book Corner, where we take a look at fine pieces of kaiju-related literature. Today I'll be covering not one, not two, but rather 3.5 books, all of which are either based on or meant to promote the most classic of kaiju films, starting with Edgar Wallace and Miriam C. Cooper's King Kong. Filmmaker Carl Denham enlists the help of Captain Englehorn and his crew of the ship Venture to travel to a mysterious island he learned of in hopes of making an exciting new film. Joined by Ann Darrow, a young actress Denham scouted, and Jack Driscoll, Englehorn's first mate, Denham and the crew of the Venture will soon encounter the giant gorilla the natives of the island worship as their king, Kong. If you've seen the movie, then you've read the book. There isn't much difference between the two. About the only major difference is the inclusion of the infamous spider pit scene that was cut from the movie. This particular copy of the book contains a rather lengthy foreword detailing the writing of the book and, by extension, the movie. That's an interesting read. While essentially an early version of the movie, overall the novelization of King Kong is worth a read. So let's move on to the next book in this video, Shigeru Kayama's Godzilla. After a number of accidents occur at sea, an investigation led by paleontologist Kyohei Yamane to Odo Island uncovers the existence of a dinosaur mutated by radiation. Named for a creature from the island's local legends, Japan soon finds itself under the threat of the walking nuclear disaster dubbed Godzilla. Unlike King Kong in the next book, the novelization of Godzilla came out well after the movie had hit theaters. This is actually the second Godzilla novel written by Kayama, with the first being a novelization of the radio drama that preceded the original movie. Unlike King Kong, there are a number of differences between page and screen, such as slightly different powers for Godzilla and a subplot about someone spreading pro-Godzilla propaganda after the JSDF decides to eliminate the giant lizard. Also changed are the removal of Hideto and Emiko's relationship, and the changing of Shinkichi Yamada, renamed to Shinkichi Morita, to a friend of the Yamanes to better explain his extended presence for the remainder of the book. And as a bonus, this book also contains Kayama's novelization of Godzilla Raids Again, which features no notable differences from the film that spring to mind. Both stories in this book are worth a read, which brings us to the final story for today's video, the Luminous Fairies and Mothra. When survivors of a shipwreck are found on Infant Island, a location affected by nuclear weapon tests, an expedition to the island is formed to uncover how the survivors came to be free of the radiation they should be contaminated with. One member of the expedition, Shinichi Chujo, discovers his saviors are tiny women whose beautiful songs entrances any who hear it. When Peter Nelson, a member of the expedition team from the nation of Rosilica, returns to the island and kidnaps the tiny women with the intention of exploiting their exoticism for his own profit, the world soon learns of Mothra, the giant insect worshipped by the inhabitants of Infant Island. And now for the longest section of this video, because I've got quite a bit to say. Similar to King Kong, the Luminous Fairies and Mothra had a number of writers working on the piece, with Shinichiro Nakamura, Takehiko Fukunaga, and Yoshie Hata each writing one of the book's 3 chapters. However, unlike the previous entries in this video, this book has the largest departure from the film it's based on. The book spends much more of its length on the exploration of Infant Island and Nelson's kidnapping and exploitation of the Shobijin, referred to in this book as the Ailena, with Mothra really only showing up for the final chapter and the monster's rampage limited to a few vague pages. The authors chose to let Toho's film fill in the blanks as far as the action is concerned, instead giving more focus to the protests of Nelson's actions. But included in the book, but not in the movie, is the Infant Islander's creation myth, explaining how Mothra came into existence. This book is also very short, consisting of not even half of this particular volume's length. In fact, most of this book is about the history of the 3 authors and their intentions with writing the story, which is a much more fascinating read than the story itself, to be honest. Shortly after the book was released, Wikizilla put out a video reviewing it and talking about the length afterward, so if you're curious, check out their video, as they do a much better job of explaining it than I could. A bit of a bonus is that, unlike the film, this book outright connects to the Godzilla series by mentioning the dinosaur by name at one point. If you're looking for a book with great kaiju action, King Kong and Godzilla are worth a read, but if you're instead looking for a critique of post-war Japan's relationship with the US, then read the Luminous, Fairies, and Mothra. Overall, all three are still worth a read, even if for historical reasons. Until we meet again, farewell.